Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rant Line Radio, episode 610, coming to you on Monday, August 18th. We're going to preview USC's offense. The Trojans going into the 2025 season. Jayden Maiava at quarterback, Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane, talented, exciting running back room, questionable things going on the offensive line. Talk about all of that here in this episode. As always, you can follow us on social media at Rant of Troy. Email us, rantoftroy@fanside.com, and our phone number, 818-643-7227, Second Whisperer and Show. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, joined with my co-host here in the Rant of Troy studio in Los Angeles, Alicia Deratola.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. We are back. This is the official beginning of 2 episodes per week. 2 mainline episodes per week.
And more where that came from.
And more where that came from when you include the CarCast starting next week. Because next week, a week from today, will be game week. A week from today. We can talk about...
Wild.
You know, oh, there's a game this week, blah, blah, blah. The way we're going on the pod, if you've haven't kept up with our schedule so far this August, today, offensive preview. Wednesday, defensive preview. Next Monday, the season predictions episode. That's the one where we have like a 20-page rundown. That's the one where everybody asks us all offseason, how many wins is SC going to have? Well, we're going to put down our predictions on Monday. We'll go game by game saying win or loss. And then you can hold us to the fire and laugh at us all season long when we're wrong. Because naturally, that's what all projections and predictions are wrong. So we'll get to that Monday. And then next Wednesday, the 27th, episode 613, the first preview of the year, USC and Missouri State's locking horns on August 30th, the day in which we will have a CarCast talking about that game afterwards. Alicia, let's get into it. A lot of stuff to go discuss about the offense. I think we have to start in the place you always start when you start talking about the offense. How is that not the quarterbacks? Let's talk about the quarterbacks. Jayden Maiava at quarterback, the incumbent starter. He started 3 games last year for the Trojans. 3 games in the regular season, 4 games when you include the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl, of course, which the Trojans won valiantly despite a struggle bus before that. Jayden Maiava last year, 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. The interceptions were costly ones, and I think those are the things that people remember a lot. 3 of them against Texas A&M, 2 of them against Notre Dame. Both of those returned for touchdowns. There was a pick 6 against Nebraska, in which Sierra Wright, former Trojan, took him to the house there at the Coliseum. Jayden Maiava, all off season, people talked about his ability on the feet, with his feet, what he can do, his big arm coming in from UNLV. During the season, every time Miller Moss, didn't blink right, everybody wanted Jayden Maiava to go in. People were talking about it after the Michigan game, after the Wisconsin, like literally every game. People wanted to see Jayden Maiava. He goes in last year after the Washington game in which Miller Moss throws 3 interceptions. USC loses on the road in Seattle. Jayden Maiava goes in on homecoming Saturday against Nebraska after a bye week. And SC wins that one, wins the UCLA game the following week, and then loses to number 2 Notre Dame before winning the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl. Alicia, Jayden Maiava, the projected starter. You got backups in Usain Longstreet and Sam Heward, who transfers in. What are your thoughts about the quarterback room?
Perfect timing, because Kenny in the chat just sent a message that said, "I'm scared," and that's where I'm at with the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I I go back and forth. I talk all the time in the off season about how it just depends on what hour it is, depending on if I'm feeling optimistic or pessimistic these days.
Yeah.
And that's the case for things on offense, things on defense, and it's been the case now for the quarterback. I go back and forth and back and forth. I think that Jayden Maiava has proven that he can win football games. We know he has a lot of talent, and we know that Lincoln Riley has developed quarterbacks and put quarterbacks in position to succeed and gotten the most out of quarterbacks for the majority of his coaching career.
Yeah.
So the sort of positive, hopeful side of me is thinking, well, he will do that with Jayden Maiava as well. Like, that's just part of the progression. And that the sort of shaky stuff that we saw last season will go away. The other part of me is the devil on my shoulder that reminds myself that just because this is not a video game and just because you get older doesn't mean you get better.
Yeah.
You aren't banking experience points that you get to level up. You don't necessarily always level up. Sometimes gunslingers who throw interceptions are just gunslingers who throw interceptions. And that USC might be going into the season depending on a quarterback who is a roller coaster of a player, and that roller coaster will have high highs and potentially low lows. So this room is really interesting because it just feels like it's full of risk. You know, like Maiava is a risky starter because we don't know if he can level out his play. Hassan Longstreet is a risky second option because he's a true freshman, also very talented, but a true freshman who should be given time to develop, who I don't want to see thrown into the fire just yet. And so it feels like USC is sort of walking on a tightrope here, and there is a universe where they make it clear to the end and keep their balance and everything is fine. But there's also a pretty big chance that there's a misstep and, falling off into hopefully the net below. I was looking at Jayden Maiava's sort of stats from last season and trying to make sense of it. And PFF had him, funnily enough, his highest grade of the season was a 92.4 against Notre Dame, a game in which he threw 2 pick sixes, which I think says everything, right? Like, he is capable of that 92. He had 6 big time throws in that game. There were 3 drops that tanked his numbers a little bit more. Like, he can be up in that elite level. At the same time, he threw 2 pick sixes in a game that USC lost in large part because of those 2 pick sixes,
Yeah.
So I go back and forth, and I'm going to be talking a lot today about like best case and worst case scenarios. And for me, the best case scenario is here is repeat of what he did against Notre Dame, and a very good Notre Dame defense, by the way. Notre Dame without the pick sixes.
55 minutes.
Yeah. Notre Dame without the pick sixes.
Yeah.
And the worst case scenario is Texas A&M without the late heroics. So that's a very, very, very wide spectrum of possibility here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when you look at it in a very basic sense, I think the quarterback room that SC has makes me the least excited. I don't want to say optimistic, least excited, I think is the perfect way to put this. About this least excited I've been about a quarterback room at USC since 99 after Carson Palmer got hurt. Maybe you go back to 97. You could say 2001, but I will push back on that because at the time, Keaton Slovis coming off of 2020 was not great, but like you could look at it and say 2020 was a weird year and he was coming off of an injury and maybe he rebounds back to where he was in 2019, right? In 2018, SC didn't have an exciting quarterback room, but yet they didn't have a productive one at the end of the day, but they did have an exciting one because there was JT Daniels as a true freshman. There were a lot of positive vibes going into it. 2013, I think you could make a shout when Kessler and Whittick are competing.
Yeah, but that was like a full-on quarterback battle.
It was interesting, at least, right?
Yeah, I think here it's like USC has two. Unlike the 2018 battle where it was like, okay, if JT Daniels the guy, you're gonna go through the growing pains, but he's sort of already ready to go.
Yeah. Where
here it's like, no matter who you put in there, it feels like growing pains are coming.
Yeah, and the bright side of it is you do have Lincoln Riley, and this is an offense that is designed to be as efficient as possible. And I think that one of the things that just looking at some just basic numbers here, Jayden Maiava last year, his quarterback rating was a $133.8. That is not good in this day of college football, right? Miller Moss was 135.1. So this is not saying that Miller Moss was better per se. But more so you need better quarterback play from no matter who your quarterback is if you're going to win more games. The interesting thing is Jayden Maiava was 133.8, right? In 2021, SC as a team was 132.4. Both Slovis and Dart were both at 132.
That's not a great
in 28. Well, this is the funny part. In 2018, SC as a team at quarterback 132.95. And that was JT Daniels, true freshman JT Daniels at 128.5.
Well, and I don't think it's a coincidence that those are the worst seasons.
Those are the three seasons in which SC did not have a record over 500 in the regular season.
Yeah.
Right? And so you need more productivity there. The irony here is last year SC, because of the running game and because of the defense holding teams, keeping SC in ball games defensively, SC goes 6-6, but they led in the fourth quarter in 11 of those 12, right? There's a world in which a couple plays switch and SC is 9-3, 10-2, and you're looking at them as a chalk Penn State team last year or whatever. Obviously didn't happen, and I think this is a sign that a little bit better quarterback play can make a world of difference. A little bit better defensive play, and SC goes from being 6-6 to 10-2. They don't need to get that much better. I think the problem is when you look at efficiency, last year, Jayden Maiava in those last three games completed 54, 55, and 56% of his passes. If you look at the season last year, the top 100 passers in college football that qualified for being on the national season rankings, number 100 was Brett Gabbert, Miami of Ohio, 57.3. And so at least 100 guys were completing passes for their full season, at least better than Maiava was in those last three games, right?
Yeah.
And so SC's got to improve there. Maiava's got to take a step forward. The flip side of this is you look at Jayden Maiava's numbers in the entire season, 59.8% completion percentage. Then you go back to that ranking of the top 100 passers, and what did I say it was? 59.8?
Yeah.
59.8 would put him just ahead of Diego Pavia, just behind DJ Lagway, two guys who have a lot of hype going into 2025. Those are two guys that won some big games last year. Those are two guys who I think that are very similar to Jayden Maiava in the sense of gunslinger types, high upside, low downside, very volatile. And I think if you're going to be a volatile quarterback, you got to hit on your big plays. You saw that with Sam Darnold. That's what made him go. You saw that with Caleb Williams. That's what made him go. Caleb Williams was actually very effective at taking a million risk and barely getting dinged for any of those risks.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold got dinged for a lot of those risks, but just overcame them with his productivity, right? So, Jayden Maiava just has to be better. I don't feel overly optimistic. So I think the best case scenario for SC is that Jayden Maiava is 15% better than last year and stays exactly for the most part as, and you don't have the negative aspects. And yeah, you talked about the first 55 minutes of the Notre Dame game. That's where that's sort of the sweet spot there. But I do think that like there's going to be good moments and there's going to be bad moments. And the worst case scenario, Kenny in the chat threw in a question: do you see a world in which Lincoln Riley makes a change midseason again? Yeah, I don't think you can ignore that possibility until SC goes into a season knowing 100% not only is this the guy who's going to start week 1, which we all assume that that's going to be the case with Jayden Maiava, but this is the one where like nobody is doubting it either. And Jayden Maiava, even if he is the starter, the odds-on favorite to start week 1, is he the one that gives everybody the most confidence in him?
Well, the issue here is that USC is coming off a season where they made a midseason change with a quarterback who sort of just reached the end of his rope, and Miller Moss wasn't playing poorly necessarily until that Washington game when he threw too many interceptions.
Yeah.
If, as Rama Murdy in the chat says, Maiava needs to focus on limiting the turnovers. If Maiava is out there turning the ball over, then a change will have to come. And the difference here is that, maybe not the difference. The similar situation here is that the change to Maiava was part of the reason people wanted it was because of the stylistic element of Maiava can at least who has all of the tools and maybe just isn't ready to go yet. But
right.
if your quarterback's going to be throwing interceptions, you'd sort of rather have the true freshman throwing the interceptions than the redshirt junior who has limited sort of investment left in terms of his future if he's going to not be taking a significant progression forward.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting thing of like, if you're going to have a mid quarterback, I'd rather have the true freshman be mid.
Well, that was the
2018
thing about JT Daniels was that it was a mid quarterback season, but it was a true freshman quarterback season, and that was fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the same thing in 2009 with Matt Barkley. It was a mid quarterback season. He had some really high highs, but it was generally mid. And again, it was okay because it was a true freshman. And
if you take care of business elsewhere.
Yeah, it's not about this year. It's about, setting up for the future.
Spoiler alert, they did not do that in 2018.
Well, no. So yeah, I don't know. My hope when it comes to the quarterback, honestly, is that Lincoln Riley can be realistic about what he has and how much trust he can bestow upon whatever quarterback is out there. And if ever there was a time, knowing what a gunslinger Maiava is, knowing that maybe he shouldn't be given as much of a control of the offense as like Caleb Williams was given, or even like Sam Bradford or one of those guys.
Yeah.
My hope would be that there is a shift philosophically from Lincoln Riley to say, you know what, I don't have a Heisman. Like, if he doesn't have a Heisman level quarterback, now that's entirely possible. USC comes out and Maiava is that guy, and it's just all good.
Yeah.
But if it becomes clear that that's not the case, my hope would be, okay, your quarterback is not your best player, so don't act like your quarterback has to be your best player. Your best player might be a running back, and it might behoove your questionable offensive line to do a thing that offensive linemen tend to prefer to do and tend to be more capable of doing, which is to say, just run the damn ball, be more conservative offensively, be more of a rushing team, take fewer risks offensively in that sense. Like, I don't know if that is reasonable for me to think is possible from a Lincoln Riley perspective. But I think that, at a certain point, it's hard because, if people were coming out of camp and talking about Maiava looking amazing,
yeah,
I would feel a lot a lot better about all of this, but like that's not the reviews that we're hearing from camp. And so
mind you,
my mind is starting to go sort of to mitigation.
Limited vantage point.
Oh, very much so, because practice isn't open to media or pretty much anybody. Yeah. So, the reviews that we're hearing are, again, it's only a fraction of the picture.
Drills, yeah.
And sometimes players get their sort of work the kinks out in practice, and then when the games come around, they sort of lock in and they're ready to go. So I'm not ruling that out, but I do think that there's definitely a part of me that is sitting here thinking like, I would like Riley to make the question of how important is the quarterback for USC to succeed. Like, there is a universe where this team is something that Lincoln Riley has not ever had to have in terms of what his teams are like, which is to say a team that is built on defense and a run game.
Well, here's the thing, though, because Funny IMC puts in the chat that would Lincoln increase the run game? I think there should be more emphasis on the things that, like, doing the little things. If you are going to be somewhat limited at quarterback, either by talent level, which I don't think it's a talent level thing with Jayden Maiava, it's an efficiency thing, right? So if you're going to be limited by your efficiency, try to be efficient in other ways. If that means more screens, if that means more run game, whatever.
Well, what have you and I talked about?
But hold on here. Like, at some point, you still have to be you, right? Like, yeah. If Air Force has a quarterback who can't make a pitch, they're not suddenly going to throw the ball 47 times just to avoid the pitch that this guy has, right? Like, you still have to run your offense. You cannot take a big step forward by changing everything either. So, like,
right, but you got
to find a sweet spot.
You can't run a triple option if the guy who's running the triple option can't make a pitch.
No,
though. Like,
right,
so at a certain point, you have to either change your offense or change your personnel. Right. And that's really the question that we have for USC. But like, you and I play college football 26, and what were you and I just talking about? That like, when things start going wrong for you on offense, that what you have gotten into the mentality of doing is, okay, let's simplify. Let's just RPOs. run RPOs, one read pass situations, and keep it simple, and don't ask too much of yourself as the person who's running the quarterback.
Yeah.
And I still need to see what a Lincoln Riley offense looks like, where he recognizes if he doesn't have the quarterback, how does he adjust to that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I think those are things we're going to have to figure out. One question for you. Hypothetical, knock on wood, this obviously doesn't happen. Missouri State game, second quarter. Jayden Maiava rolls his ankle. Is a thing that he's going to get over in 10 minutes. But he rolls his ankle, and you got to go out there with a different quarterback for that drive. Is it Longstreet or is it Heward? And the reason I bring this up is this is a thing that we had talked about in 2018, right? Like 2018, 2019, I think 2019, did we talk about this? Like, there's a world where, like, QB2 is conditional, right? Like, in the sense of, like, is it a long-term QB2 situation? Then Longstreet clearly is the guy, right? But, like, if you need a random drive somewhere, do you just throw in Sam Heward because the dude's been around in college football for a little bit and, like, he can theoretically handle a drive? Or does that not matter in this day and age, in 2025, when red shirts carry sort of less weight, especially with transfer portal stuff being so prevalent?
I know that I think we've talked about this in the past, and I think I've been firmly on the side of, like, don't burn the red shirt. And the more I think about it, the more I think burn the red shirt. The red shirt doesn't matter. Like, because there was a time where you had a succession plan, right? And so you wanted to maintain a red shirt for a young quarterback because you wanted the additional years for him to have that opportunity. But realistically, if Hassan Longstreet is your quarterback going forward, then you should not be expecting him to be your quarterback for longer than 4 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even Longstreet's timeline is probably closer to 3 years, his personal timeline, right?
Yeah.
So if that gets delayed, you're still only talking, you don't need a 5th year for Hassan Longstreet. If Hassan Longstreet is playing a 5th year, to at least see what you get from Hassan in that situation, right?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that if this was a question 10 years ago, I think the answer would be different.
Oh, yeah. Very, very different.
10 years ago, it's 2015. Yeah, I think and Kessler's the starter.
But 10 years...
You're going to go... Well, I guess Max Brown was always the... You know what I mean?
10 years ago, Malachi Nelson is your backup quarterback right now, so...
Sure.
You know.
All right, let's go to the running back room. SC loses Woody Marks. Woody Marks goes, of course, to the NFL. He's now with the Houston Texans. Quentin Joyner was really good last year, especially on a per-play basis. I think it was well into November that he had not recorded a negative rush. I don't even know if he recorded a no-gain rush. He was really, really good, and everyone thought that he was going to be the guy going into 2025. But alas, that did not happen because he took the NIL money over at Texas Tech, who is just throwing oil money left and right, like they throw their tortillas, apparently. So he is gone. SC loses.
And as a side note, he is gone, and now we will not see him play in 2025, unfortunately.
Did he get hurt?
He tore his ACL.
Oh, no. That
Sucks.
sucks. That royally sucks.
That really sucks for a guy who was looking for his opportunity to be the guy. He was going to get that at Texas Tech. Yeah, not good.
That absolutely sucks. I hate to see that. Mario Peterson is transferred away. This is a completely new look running back room with the exception of Brian Jackson, who is back. He'll be probably like your running back 3, a role which he kind of saw last year, rocking the number 21. We saw him in the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl. We saw him then, but number 1 and 2, sort of like a 2-man backfield, maybe. Maybe it's a 1A, 1B. Maybe it's a solid 1 and 2. I don't know. We're going to see. We're putting on our screen projected starters, both of these guys, Eli Sanders and Wayman Jordan. Wayman Jordan comes in from JUCO, where he was like the JUCO Heisman winner practically. Eli Sanders transfers in from New Mexico. He was at Iowa State before that, moves over to New Mexico, has some good moments in ABQ last year for the Lobos, and then ultimately slides over. He feels sort of like the Austin Jones to me.
Yes.
Where could be really good. Could be really good in the right moments, unheralded, reliable veteran kind of guy, right? Wayman Jordan feels like he could be the Marshawn Lloyd, Keontae Ingram, potential superstar running back if things in a perfect scenario, right? Just because there's a lot of hype. I think this is a really fun running back room, even though it's completely different than what you would have expected, 9 months ago.
Yeah.
Is it not a sort of, exciting running back room?
I love this running back room. I am super excited for Wayman Jordan. I think the Austin Jones comparison for Eli Sanders is a good one in terms of he's a veteran guy who I think USC will be able to rely on. And it'll be interesting to see what the split of carries ends up being between those two. But I like the setup here. Wayman Jordan as 1A, Eli Sanders potentially 1B, if not 2. Brian Jackson as sort of option number 3. Short yardage back is sort of the way that they've been talking at fall camp. So love that for him.
Your bowling ball.
Yeah, a little bowling ball, and then maybe we'll see some action for Harry Dalton, the freshman. Would love to see Riley Wormley, but I guess he's been injured for most of the time. I'm not sure what his what the timeline or anything like that for his injury is, but at the very least we'll see those guys, and I think it's a solid room. I think it's a solid room in an offense that we know can get the most out of running backs. The question for the running, there are two questions I have for the running backs, and it has nothing to do with their ability to be really good, if not great, a really good, if not great running back room. Number one is, can they stay healthy? Which, knock on wood, is always my question about running backs. I always assume that running backs, that the running back room, you need extra depth because it's just a position that just gets beat up, just gets beat the hell up, and it's been very rare for USC to have a number one running back who makes it all the way through the season without getting a little dinged up in the process. So that's question number one, and number two is Lincoln Riley willing to run the ball if that is the strength of his offense?
Because I choose not to run.
It's a real question.
Yeah. We've said it all offseason. SC was the number one team in the Big Ten last year in yards per carry.
Yep.
On a per play basis. And we said the caveat over and over and over again. They probably don't hold that title if they run the ball more, just based on math.
And it was frustrating because, it's not just the running backs that the run game is a question for. It's that last year it was very clear that USC's offensive line was more comfortable in run blocking than in pass protection.
And that's been the case for a while.
It's been the case for a while.
Yeah.
So again, let the offensive line do what they do if that's what they do.
Run blocking, my very dumb X's and O's brain says that run blocking is easier.
Well,
you're just moving forward.
Offensive linemen say,
right?
Yes, run blocking is easier because you are on the attack as a run blocker.
Yeah.
You are you've identified who you're responsible to block, and you just go. It's sort of like one thought, go. Yeah. Where pass blocking is you're on defense, you're on the back foot, you're backing up, you're reacting. You're reacting to things that the defense is throwing at you, and the defense is trying to confuse you in a way that in run blocking, the defense isn't trying to confuse you about who's going to try and go tackle the running back, or who you're going to block. Where when you're pass blocking, the whole point is sometimes for you not to know who's coming and from where.
Yeah, so we talk about making things easier on the offense. If you're not going to feel great about the efficiency, then make it easier for the offensive line by running more. Make it easier for the running backs by making them happy and fill their bellies with carries by running more. And make it easier on your quarterback by running more, which ultimately makes it easier for receivers, right? So, things can sort of trickle down, and suddenly in a Lincoln Riley offense, right? The running backs aren't sort of the underdog on how the production's all going to come together, which, of course, I think is the perfect time to pivot and talk about Underdog Fantasy. Alicia, Underdog Fantasy, America's favorite daily fantasy app, is really cooking right now because football season is back, and so is making picks on Underdog, my favorite daily fantasy app, where I can play with as little as $1 and win up to 5,000 times my money. It's all about using your ball knowledge, deciding whether a player will go higher or lower than their stat projection, mix and match different players, different teams, even different sports, not just football, but baseball. Hockey's coming up soon. Basketball's coming up soon. Well, later on in the fall. You get the point. A lot of stuff going on. But for week 0, college football is back this week. I'm going to go with Iowa State's Rocco Becht, quarterback, to go higher than his 1.5 passing touchdowns projection. I'm going higher on 42.5 rushing yards for Kansas State's Avery Johnson. And I'm not as optimistic about the Stanford Cardinal. So Ben Goldbranson's 223.5 passing yard projection, going lower on that. But you can join me and make your picks over at Underdog this weekend. Download the app today and sign up with the promo code Reign of Troy to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code Reign of Troy, all one word. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdogs. Will you be next? Underdog Make picks, win money. It must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Are concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit ncpgambling.org. And New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 567-369. Alicia, I think we have to go to a super chat that we got from Fight On MC that says, Fight On, I'm so excited for the season to begin. Yo también.
I'm excited for answers to all of my questions. I am excited for football. Yes.
Yeah. So many questions.
I am filled with excitement and dread. is where I'm at, but
that goes without saying. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Fighter MC. We always appreciate you and love having you in the chat. So thank you. Let's go and talk about the wide receivers. Wide receiver room that's, speaking of excitement for wide receiver rooms, is it the most exciting wide receiver room as SC has ever had? No. And that's in part because SC's had a lot of exciting receiving rooms, right?
yes.
But Mekhi Lemon, you got to feel good about. Jacoby Lane, you got to feel good about. And then there's a question mark on A, how good can Jacoby Lane be? He scored 12 touchdowns last year. Can he take the step forward? And I think the other question is, who's going to step up and be sort of like that third option? And who's going to be the Taj Washington of this receiving core in terms of like the guy that you can rely on that isn't the name brand per se? Alicia, I know you've got a lot of opinions there.
I wish I had more opinions, to be honest. I wish I had more solid opinions. I think that with this group, it's obvious that Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon are the guys. I have major questions about both of them in terms of how far they can fulfill their high ceilings. Mm-hmm. A lot of it has to do with how high I think their ceilings are, which is astronomically high. But that just means that there's a lot of room there for sort of, where is their cutoff? I think Mekhi Lemon has the chance to be great, but can he be Amon-Ra St. Brown great?
Yeah.
Or have we sort of seen have we already seen Mekhi Lemon at his best? In terms of like, is he just going to repeat what he did in 2024, which was solid, but, still with some limitations in terms of availability and in terms of just total impact, from start to finish, right?
Yeah.
Jacoby Lane, is he the next coming of Michael Pittman, or dare I say any of the other great big-bodied, physical presence wide receivers that USC has had in the past? Because I think he could absolutely be another Michael Pittman. And I think that it's entirely possible that USC comes into this season with a 2019 Michael Pittman, 2019 Amon-Ra St. Brown sort of receiving duo, which would be absolutely fantastic. At the same time, Jacoby Lane has proven to be inconsistent, and I think there's every chance that Jacoby Lane sort of falls into more of a Brendan Rice category of when he's good, he's really good. Like when he gets the matchup that he likes, he will absolutely have a monster game. But will he be an impact player consistently and reliably? That still remains to be seen. So even USC's two most exciting pieces on offense, I think far and away the most exciting pieces on offense, there's still a lot of potential as opposed to certainty, with those two guys. And then we got to talk about wide receiver 3, who, I really like what I've seen from Zacharias Williams from his Utah days. I think his talent, his skill set is so exciting to me. I really, really want to see him blossom at USC. But he's new to the system, new to the offense, and from the best that we can tell, and I've done a lot of digging to try and figure this out. And I think that the extent of the digging I've had to do to figure out who is wide receiver number 3 actually answers the question, which is to say nobody knows who wide receiver number 3 is. Is it Prince Strawn? He was wide receiver number 3 at Boise, so we know he can be that guy, but can he be that guy at USC? Is it Xavier Jordan, the young guy that is sort of waiting for his opportunity? How involved is Jay Fair going to be? Are we going to see the true freshmen like Corey Sims or Romero Eisen or Tanook Hines step in and be that third option for USC? I don't know. I can't find anybody else who knows with any certainty. And obviously we have limited eyes on practice or the way that things are progressing, but I want to hook on to the wide receivers is if nothing else, USC's wide receiving core will be solid, but I don't even know if I can do that at this point because there are still so many question marks with this unit. This unit, I think, has the highest ceiling on the team.
Yeah.
But ceilings are still theoretical, and I would like there to be a clearer picture about who wide receiver number 3 is going into the season, and I don't have that clear picture, and that makes me nervous. Because I guess the question is there no wide receiver number 3 because everybody is good and everybody will be competing? Or is there no wide receiver number 3 because no one has stood out?
Yeah. Grant in the chat said he won the Heisman with Jay Fair in CFP 26.
Jay Fair in CFP 26 is wonderful. He's my safety blanket. Jay Fair and Lake McCree, just dudes are my safety blankets in that game. I feel bad for how rarely I throw the ball to Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon because I'm just constantly throwing it to Jay Fair.
Yeah. Andrew in the chat says that we're from campus. There's no true number 3 emerging.
And he said wide receiver room banged up. It is flying under the radar that Jacoby Lane has been injured for much of camp. So
is there a world in which this is a 2005 USC or 2011 USC receiving room where it's top heavy, where Lane and Lemon to combined get 70% of the targets or something like that?
I'm fine with that, to be honest. I think that would be, like I said,
if they can answer the bell,
If you give me right now 2019 Michael Pittman and Amon-Ra St. Brown recreated and nobody else in this receiving core does jack whatever, I'll take that. Absolutely. Yes, please. The only problem with sort of relying on that is you have a Jacoby Lane who has been injured for most of the offseason, and you have a Mekhi Lemon who was injured for parts of last season. So you're sort of, again, pinning a lot of hopes on pinning your hopes on 2 players to lead your passing attack.
Yeah. Can
sometimes backfire because wide receiver is another position where I'm just very used to there being availability issues. I mean, I just think about, if not availability, then banged up issues. I think about Robert Woods and how great he was until he got banged up. Marquise Lee, how great he was until he got banged up. Juju Smith-Schuster, who he was zombie Juju for most of the season because he should have been worse.
Yeah.
Given how many injuries he was dealing with.
Over-relied on those guys.
Yeah. So, some of these, trust me, I would take those guys being on that level. But even if you have guys on that level, you still need number 3 and number 4 to be sort of reliable and capable. And my guess is, I'm not trying to be pessimistic. Alicia here, guys. I'm going to throw in my optimistic take on the wide receivers. My guess is, like with the running backs, my guess is that somebody will step up. I think that whether it's Zacharias Williams or Prince Strawn or Xavier Jordan or Corey Sims or Jaden Richardson or Jay Fair or Romero Eisen or Tanook Hines or whoever, I think somebody will be that guy. And if it's not somebody being that guy, then it will be a series of somebodies who become that guy. You know, sometimes it's just like for one game and one game and one game. Like, I think that USC will have coverage as far as the wide receivers go this year. Again, it just comes down to how easy do they make life for the quarterback, and how well is the rest of the offense functioning when it comes to being able to get the most out of the wide receivers. Because the downside of wide receivers is that you could have great wide receivers, but if your offensive line is a mess and your quarterback is unreliable, it's the one position on offense where your superstar player can become kind of moot because the other pieces of the cog are not functioning.
Yeah, not to be Johnny Raincloud, but last year, I think we all went into the season absolutely juiced about the receiving core.
Yes, and you saw what that receiving core was.
And the receiving core was one that everyone grumbled about for the entire season, right? And
it was one that had clear talent, but was inconsistent and not good enough at getting open and all of the things that you need to make life easier for the rest of the offense. And this group still needs to prove that they can sort of elevate from there.
All right, really quick, before we move on, I sort of pulled 70% out of my ass about 2012 and 2005. 2012, SC's receiving core, the top pass catcher is Marquise Lee, wins the Biletnikoff with 118 catches. Robert Woods had 76. Can you guess the third receiver and how many he had?
In 2012?
Yes. 118, 76. Who is number 3 and how many?
Was Nelson Aguilar already there?
It is Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah. It was the freshman. And this is exactly why I'm sort of like looking. I really want Zacharias Williams or Prince Strawn or somebody, but like I'm also sort of eyeing those freshmen as like one of those guys could just be your... Yeah. USC has had a long string of top 2 guys and then the next guy, freshman, when he's not, we saw this with Drake London. We saw this with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and we saw this with Tyler Vaughns. And like they're the third option as a freshman, not super productive, but you see the little signs. So, yeah.
Yeah. 69.7% of catches were by Lee and Woods that year.
Which, again, sign me up.
69.7. That's crazy.
Sign me up.
2005, I looked it up. Very similar numbers from receivers. It is a little bit different because 2005 had this guy in the backfield. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. And he liked to catch balls out of the backfield.
Yeah.
And there's actually a fullback that liked to catch balls out of the backfield, too. And so in 2005, Dwayne Jarrett and Steve Smith combined for 151 catches. They had 48.3% of the team's catches, which is still a lot. But Reggie Bush had 37. Dominic Byrd at tight end had 29. David Kurtman, the fullback, had 22.
Yeah, who was the next leading receiver?
I knew who this was exactly. It's Chris McFoy.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
he was just solidly the third receiver.
Yeah.
17 catches. Very similar to 2012.
Yeah.
Where Aguilar had
just picking up
18.
scraps.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on. Let's talk about your favorite position, the tight ends. Blake McCree, sort of the guy coming back. You talked about how much you love him in College Football 26.
I love me some Blake McCree.
Solid tight end. Is he going to blow your socks off? Probably not. Is he going to be a reliable guy when he's healthy? Yes, right? Walker Lyons, young dude going into year 2. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with him, how much he can play a role in the rotation there. Carson Tabarachi, Nello Tupou is there. Walter Matthews. Is he there?
Well, he is currently practicing with the offensive line.
Yeah.
He has been sort of shifted over to offensive tackle, which could be a very, very bad sign, or could portend some sort of, creative formations potentially. Could be
He's 285.
It legitimately could be they're looking at his frame and seeing how much weight he's putting on and saying, you know what, his future is actually on the offensive line. He could be a really good offensive lineman if given time, which I'm perfectly. I mean, he's a true sophomore. I expect if he does make the full-time move to offensive line, just right off this season as a red shirt, and then we'll see what he does. So I don't think it's 100% like this is bad, because it really could just be about what they see in him. But having said that, USC's offensive line situation is such that it scares the crap out of me. And so hearing that a young tight end has moved over to offensive line does get my hackles up a little bit.
Calix Rose in the chat says, aren't you missing someone? Yeah, Joey Olsen, also another true freshman. Look at the sizes of the guy, redshirt freshman for Olsen. Look at the sizes of the guys. Olsen 6'5", 250. Tabarachi, 6'1", 225, but Walter Matthews, 6'6", 285. And first of all, how is someone named Walter Matthews, how is he not like the Gold Glove winning left fielder for the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1962? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Classic name. But I think this is the sort of room that I don't know that we need to go into that much depth. It's McCree and Lions, and if the other guys chip in, great.
I will say it now. It is McCree and Lions, and if the other guys chip in, then great.
Yeah.
It is, can McCree stay healthy?
Yeah.
Can Lions stay healthy? And I'm not even going to bother with the annual question of, is USC going to use the tight ends more? I'm not even gonna bother.
We'll see. We will see. I think there will be quite a few of those tight end flat RPOs.
Yes.
Hey, they did it in that Michigan game like 3 times in the matter of like 2 drives.
Which, is
first half of the Michigan game.
It's not inherently. It's not an inherently bad play, but it is a play that I think could be more efficient from a USC perspective if they rethought that play a little bit.
It plays cracked in the video game. Cracked.
Yes, but in real life, it almost always results in no gain or 1 yard, which, you know what, is better than losing yards. So, yeah.
Funny on USC, in the chat says, do we have a Wingfield update? Let's use that as the way to pivot to the offensive line. Alicia, we have on the screen here sort of the projected starters that you've put together. Left tackle Elijah Page, left guard Micah Penuelos. Center, Big Reed. What were we saying?
Big General Reed.
Big General Reed. There we go. Yeah. There's question marks, by the way. The reason we say this is because everybody has been saying John Ray Reed. In the media guide, it says Jay Henry.
Jay Henry. I still don't even he doesn't say Jay Henry.
The media guide is gospel. So that's what it is. But also, in interviews, he's like, I'm Big General Reed. He's just Big General Reed.
What if the origin of his name is John Henry, but like the French? It's like Jean Henry. Jay Henry. Sounds French, right?
Anyways, right guard Alani Noah and right tackle Tobias Raymond. You notice that DJ Wingfield is not in there. Lisa, you wanted to treat these sort of projected starters as if there was a game to be played tomorrow. These are what your best guess would be, right? And with Wingfield today was the hearing. What's the update?
This is per Ryan Karchi. DJ Wingfield's hearing for a preliminary injunction was this afternoon. appears to be a long shot that the judge grants him injunctive relief. The judge denied the injunction in a tentative order because he didn't find the NCAA's 5-year rule was commercial in nature.
Do I blame Larry Scott for this?
Of note, in the judge's tentative order, he wrote that the 5-month delay in Wingfield requesting a temporary restraining order after being ruled ineligible in March weakened the urgency of Wingfield's claim of irreparable harm. The judge should offer his final ruling shortly. If he denies the preliminary injunction, as expected, Wingfield will not be able to play or practice with USC this fall, which is to say the update on DJ Wingfield is bad.
Yeah.
Bad. And my instinct to say Micah Benuelos needs to be up there at left guard starting instead of DJ Wingfield was correct, because DJ Wingfield is not on USC's team, and it does not look like DJ Wingfield will be on the roster for this season, leaving USC a man down on the offensive line. And with another big question mark on the offensive line.
Yeah. Full
of question marks.
Yeah. As you see on the screen, notable projected backups. Justin Taunu'u, Killian O'Connor, and Kalon Miller. Kalon Miller and Killian O'Connor, of course, walk-ons. At least that's how they began at USC. Could they end up playing a role here? Like, I think we've talked about it before. We talked about Kalon Miller last week or the week before, whenever it was that we did that. How do you feel about the offensive line? How do you feel about them potentially being guys to lean on this offensive line, etc.?
Okay. Here's where I'm at with the offensive line, which I have talked about.
Lay it on us.
I have talked about, and we've had the walk-on conversation. I have made it clear my misgivings about the potential for USC to have not one but two walk-ons starting, let alone in their two deep on the offensive line. All due respect to Killian O'Connor and Kalon Miller. My God, please let them be the next great walk-ons at USC. I would be very, very happy about that. The likelihood of that remains low. Here's where I'm at with the offensive line. We went into this season knowing that USC would have limited options on the offensive line, that there would be, that depth would not be great, that, but if nothing else, USC would have a starting 5 that we could reasonably guess from the jump, right? Mm-hmm. So early on, it looked like we could just pencil in starting 5: Elijah Page, DJ Wingfield, Big General Reed, Alani Noah, Tobias Raymond.
Yeah.
And then the only really question there would it be Tobias Raymond, or would it be Jonah Taunu'u? Yes?
Yeah, Taunu'u.
Taunu'u.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be like a solid 5, maybe a 6th.
Taunu'u, sorry.
Tonu, and that they could lock that in, and that the advantage of that, despite not having good depth, at the very least, there would be a locked-in 5 that could spend the whole offseason building chemistry, sort of building understanding, familiarity, all of that kind of stuff with that 5, and that the bigger question for USC going in would be like, can you make it through the season without losing one of those starting 5 to injury or whatever?
Yeah.
Well, USC's already lost one of them, not to injury, but to eligibility. So DJ Wingfield, and in goes Micah Benuelos, theoretically. But it's messier than that, because it's not even a solid, at least USC knows their 5. We are a week away from game week. We are less than 2 weeks from USC kicking off the season opener. And the only starter that I can definitively say is a locked-in starter is Elijah Page.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, if you could pick one, left tackle's the one you want to pick.
Yes. I mean, if you're if you had me tell me which position on the offensive line do you want your far and away best offensive lineman to be? Yes, I would slot them into left tackle. So, Elijah Page, there you go. But the understanding at this point is that Micah Benuelos is still a question mark at left guard. Big General Reed, who we had penciled in as like a locked-in plug-and-play starter, is in a competition with Killian O'Connor.
Yeah.
A real competition. Alani Noah, who we had penciled in as a locked-in starter at right guard, is in a real competition with Kalen Miller. And Tobias Raymond and Jonah Taunu'u have not resolved their right tackle competition yet, which isn't the end of the world. I sort of expected that to keep going. But there is a universe where USC goes into the season still uncertain about 4 of the 5 starting positions on the offensive line. And there is another universe where USC plays a game, if not 2 or if not 3, where they are still mixing and matching and shuffling and deciding, is Tobias Raymond going to be a tackle? Is he going to be a guard? Is Micah Benuelos ready to go at guard? Is Alani Noah ready to go at guard? Who's going to be there? Who's going to be there? Like, who's going to be center? If John Ray Reed doesn't win the starting center job, then could he get kicked out to guard? Like, all of these questions still exist, and I fear might still be in existence 3 weeks from now when USC is getting ready to think about playing, Illinois. Like I am not having a good time thinking about the offensive line, to be quite honest. I still maintain, again, like, I don't want people to think that I'm full-blown pessimistic, Alicia, because I think there is a universe where in the end USC is able to come out of this and say, USC's offensive line is for the better because they've had all of these competitions, and that the guys who win the starting jobs have won it on merit because they were pushed by somebody of merit.
Yeah.
And that in the end, the 5 or rotation of 6 or 7 could be extended out to a rotation to a realistic 2 deep where more players are capable of being starters than we imagined. The problem with that is that, like, again, it's the zero-sum game of, are these battles still ongoing because the guy behind is legitimately pushing and capable and worthy of being a starting lineman at USC? Or are these battles still going because neither of the options at USC are good enough to be starting linemen at any of these positions? Yeah. I don't know the answer to that at 4 of 5 positions on this offensive line going into the season, and I do not like being in that position. Can I blame Bob Connolly for this?
A lot of stuff in the chat. Johnny Action says, great, so they lost Pregnon because they wouldn't pay him, now losing the guy who's going to replace him. Way to go, SC. Going into the 4th year in the O-line is far from solid. Way to go, Riley. Guy, or Guy, maybe it's Guy, I think it's Guy. It says, after all the improvements on the recruitment, they really blew it this year for the offensive line. Why not another transfer at least? I think the most generous read of this whole situation for Lincoln Riley or the program, however you want to put it, is that they tried with DJ Wingfield, and they just didn't get the decision to go their way. And Emmanuel Pregnon said he was coming back until he didn't, until he changed his mind and ultimately went to Oregon. And that you could say, well, they didn't have the general manager situation, the front office, set up now like they did at the beginning of the offseason. And does Chad Bowden let Emmanuel Pregnon walk? Maybe not. That's one way to look at the whole thing. The other way to look at the whole thing is, well, then you could have got Chad Bowden potentially sooner. You needed to, even without Chad Bowden, you shouldn't have let it get to a situation where you had your one guy on the offensive line. If it was strictly money motivated, you should have never let Emmanuel Pregnon ever leave when you knew that this was an offensive line that could not afford to not have him there.
That was already losing an NFL caliber player on the inside. Like, yeah, I don't know. The whole, I get some things are out of your control, and maybe we know the DJ Wingfield thing was out of their control. Maybe the Pregnon thing was out of their control. It's hard to say, but I still think there was time to go be aggressive in the transfer portal to get another offensive lineman.
This has been an off season in which Lincoln Riley has spoken multiple times that one of his big regrets was going into the 2023 season and relying too heavily on the transfer portal. Mm-hmm. And when we've looked back at it, so much of that refers to the offensive line, right? Like they went out and they got Tarquin and Kingston and Ethan White, right, from Florida, who never played a down because he didn't even go to camp or anything like that, right? Like, and Kingston wasn't the rock star that people thought he would be. Pregnon was ultimately good, obviously, but
he was good. He was good in year two. Like he was just as shaky as Kingston in year one. He came alive in year two, which is the thing that I have been stressing about Reed and Wingfield this whole time is, my conversations with Hithloday continue to sort of hold up, is the idea that it's hard for offensive linemen to transfer in and then stick in year one, that you're probably best off recruiting young offensive linemen who you don't intend to plug and play yet. Yeah, and I think what we're seeing with John Ray Reed specifically is, he's a veteran starting center that transfers into USC and is now in a battle with a former walk-on for that starting center job. That is about how difficult it is to, as an offensive lineman, to step into a new system and pick it up immediately and just plug and play at any position on the offensive line, which again just gets back to, okay, so Pregnon was out of your control, maybe. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. Wingfield's out of your control. Okay, that's fine. But this is still a coaching staff, and I'll put this at the feet of Lincoln Riley. USC went into the 2024 season without a solution at center.
Yeah.
Their solution at center was patchwork. They moved their best lineman to a position that he had never played, and a position that he admirably did, but was a worse center than he was at any other position that he's played at USC. Yeah. And so they didn't have a solution at center in 2024. So this stems back multiple years of you should not have even been going into 2024 without a solution at center. And now you're back to another sort of 2 years where center is a question, and your offensive line is sort of living on a prayer at this point. And
it also doesn't help that the cupboard was
bare, and you're in a position where
the cupboard wasn't bare though. The cupboard wasn't bare in the sense that Lincoln Riley inherited Jonah Monheim. He inherited Andrew Voorhees. He inherited Brett Nealon. Those are 3 Clay Helton offensive line recruits that absolutely he hit on, all 3 of those guys, right? But Jonah Monheim was 2 years, great, but it was 1 year of Voorhees, it was 1 year of Nealon, and everything beyond that from what Helton had, hurt. And part of it was that Helton's offensive line recruits were not great, right? But the COVID year sort of pushed it down the line for it to be more on the Lincoln Riley, right? Because Andrew Voorhees kept having eligibility. Brett Nealon kept having eligibility, right? And so it sort of delayed the impact of the recruiting follies. But and then Lincoln Riley comes in.
And it should have set them up to be ready to deal with those more.
100%. And then
it didn't.
I think there's too much of a results bias, or however you want to put it, about the whole transfer portal thing in terms of 2023, right? The transfer portal offensive line stuff, they went big on the transfer portal offensive line in 2023. Wasn't necessarily a net gain, right? At the same time, I don't think that results I think framing everything by the results, absolutely can warp your perspective of so many things. Like, that doesn't mean that you can't continue to try something different then. Or, you know what I mean? Like, just because it didn't work once doesn't mean that that was the wrong decision per se. Like, these things are nuanced, right? I don't know. Either way, I think it all comes down to if the Pregnon thing was strictly cash related, there is no way in hell they ever should have let him walk. And if you have Pregnon, you have Page. If you have a Benuelos that you're comfortable with putting in there, you have a Killian O'Connor who is better than people expected, or however you want to look at that, and you bring in John Ray Reed, and you hope that you have DJ Wingfield. I think just having Pregnon there allows you to feel so much better about the offensive line, even if it's 20% better, right? Like, look at last year with Monheim, right? Like, having Monheim be the guy that you don't have to worry about makes everything else easier to cope with, even if he's at a different position.
Yes,
you can't let Pregnon go if it's just
that's
NIL money.
It really does come down to you can't let Pregnon go, and you can't have. I'm struggling because it's like, USC has had a lot of offensive linemen leave via transfer as well, and I'm struggling to I can't necessarily say that any of those outside of Pregnon were disastrous to let go. Mm-hmm. I'd have to do more research, but it just feels like the chickens are coming home to roost from a offensive line perspective, and you should not be in year 4 of any regime and have chickens coming home to roost on offensive line if you are if you are a competent regime. Yeah. That's, and it's especially annoying because getting Lincoln Riley, there was the hope, there was that brief moment of hope where USC might have gotten Bill Biedenbow, and
shouts to Jackie in Discord. Yeah.
And that didn't happen, and so USC recruiting on the offensive line has simply not been good enough.
Yeah.
Under Lincoln Riley, development on the offensive line. I mean, right now the chickens are coming home to roost, and the only thing that can save it at this point is if development of these linemen turns out to be good. And again, I want to preface all of this with, I'm not saying it's impossible for this to be there is a universe where Raymond, Noah, Benuelos, and Page are all really damn good offensive linemen. And there's a world where somebody like Kalon Miller, who was a defensive lineman in high school, who has been transitioned to offensive line, that they have identified something in him that is like diamond in the rough kind of stuff, and that the development of Killian O'Connor over the years has been he's very well respected on this team. And so it could be that all of these pieces come to fit together and it's okay.
Yeah.
That is possible. It's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. It's certainly what I'm hoping for. Yeah. My problem is just the percentages on that being the actual outcome. It's not where I need it to be to feel confident going into the season looking at this unit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, what are your thoughts about the offense? Put them in the chat. Hit us up with comments on YouTube. Email us, rantoftroy@fanside.com. Of course, hit us up with your phone calls for voicemails and all those things. We've only been getting spam voicemails. I think people hate us. Yeah.
Well, we got to remind people to get in the habit of calling in, because we're going to have Rant Line, hopefully Rave Line, but definitely Rant Line potentially.
Yeah, we'll see. Either way, let's get to the mailbag.
You got mail.
All right, let's start with a review that we got on Apple Podcasts from CJ Love 88. It is a 1-star review. We love our 1-star reviews. The subject line is Crosstown Roundtable. What is the purpose of the F word in this episode? What is the purpose of saying like every sentence? Most of the listeners are educated and classy people. The usage of these words on a repeated basis eliminates any credibility. Trash. All right. In terms of profanity, sure. Should there have not been any profanity there? Sure. Fair enough.
Trust me, I make an effort to curb my profanity.
Yeah. We're just going to blame Jake.
So we can just blame Jake. It's
blame
the
Jake.
Bruins' fault.
Yeah. Now, in terms of the like stuff, I take our quality very seriously, right? Like we put a lot of effort into everything. I do think that saying that word can be a crutch when you're doing live podcasting. When, like, the round table, we're podcasting without a rundown for the most part. It is just people talking. You're gonna say that word because it's a filler word. That's what people say. And then when you are doing live podcasting, Mr. CJ Love 88, I encourage you to go buy a microphone and start podcasting and see what it's like to say the word like less than you think you might. It is difficult when it's live and you're recording all in one take. Back in the days where I would edit out every single yeah, I would take out like that. I would take that out, right? But like, you're doing live recordings. We're humans talking. The whole point of the podcast is to be conversational. All the other reviews that we have, by the way, I am not hating on a 1-star review. If you want to be critical of us, be critical of us. We will take criticism. Absolutely. Absolutely. But this stuff annoys us because we got another one earlier this summer that was about the word like. So I went to Podscribe, which does AI transcriptions of podcasts. Just for reference, according to